It is 7:18 p.m. on April 1st. It's a Tuesday. It's April Fool's Day. I don't really know what to say. There's nothing that I want to say about today. It's just regarding this holiday. I do actually have a really fond memory of a past April Fool. It was 2019, 2020, the COVID, during the lockdown. I remember me and my sister were like, well, we're stuck in the house, so what do we want to do? And so my window opens up to the roof of the garage, so I can go out there if I wanted to. I don't really go out there. I don't need to. But we thought it was a funny idea to put all of the shoes, the entirety of our shoes, so that means my 3 pair of shoes, my dad's 6 pair of shoes, and the combined total of my sister and mom's 40 pair of shoes, on the roof, on the side that you couldn't see when driving through the house. And we thought it was funny. And then there's another thing that I was very adamant about, is that we took the spare TVs that we had, the old spare TVs, and we put them both into our rooms. And I set it up, I plugged it in, I put my switch in there, I did everything so that it was right. And when my parents came in, they were like, they didn't even notice. And I remember when we were like, okay, well, we did have an April Fool's, you just didn't notice. They were like, oh yeah, when we came in, we thought you just cleaned up, and we were so happy that you just cleaned up. And we were like, no, look out on the roof, and all of the shoes were out on the roof. And then they didn't even notice that I had the TV in my room. I pointed out, I'm like, hey, the TV's in the room, and they're like, okay. And then I just kept it there for the entirety of the summer. And I was never allowed to have a TV in my room because I don't really know why. I had my computer in my room, my laptop. I didn't have a computer at that time, and I would just watch TV the entire time during that as well. So I don't really know why I wasn't allowed to have a TV in the room. It just didn't make sense. But I had it in there, and they didn't take it away, and my Switch plugged in there. So late at night, I started just playing video games. I had this online friend group, and we would play Mario Kart. We would do a bunch of things together, and having that TV in my room was probably made some of the fondest memories I have of that time. When I think of some of the best times I've had, I think of my times at boarding school, but before that, the most fun that I've had was during that springtime. I wouldn't say the most fun. I think the most fun time that I had was during that time of the pandemic. A lot more fun times, but before I went to boarding school, that was really what I could look back on the most and smile about. And it was all because of that TV. I finally felt like I had a space that was mine. It was my room, it was my area. I could go upstairs and my parents wouldn't complain about it. And for the first time, I felt like I was doing things on my own. And I have so many memories. I would lay on the floor in my beanbag and just talk all night with friends. We would play Jackbox. We would do all these things, just talk. I would watch streams. This was the time that I started speed running Mario Kart, and I was good at it. At that time, the peak I had was 47th in the world, and I was good at Mario Kart. I was good, and so many things. I had a speaker in my room, and I would play Zelda and chill, and I remember so distinctly I was sitting on my beanbag, I had my window open, all the blinds open, Zelda and chill playing, I had Breath of the Wild going on my TV, I was sitting down, and the sun was just about setting, so it was golden hour, and the sun was shining through the window, and it created one of the best atmospheres, the most homey, the most warm atmospheres that I've ever had. And that is a moment that is so precious to me, because it felt like at that time I finally found me. Like, before that time, I was playing a part, and I kind of was. I was always stuck. I've said this before. I was always stuck between the really sports side and the really nerd side, because I was kind of both. Like, I was good at hockey, and I was also one of the smarter kids in my class. So I was stuck between this. Like, I had friends in school that were the nerd friends. I had friends outside of the school that were the hockey friends. And I felt like every single time that I would hang out with different people, I kept switching. When I would go hang out with the hockey friends, I would put on a hockey persona. When I would hang out with the nerd friends, I would put on a nerd persona. And I never felt like I was ever being exactly who I wanted to be, because I always felt like I had to play a part to be a part of those groups. When I got to boarding school, it fit me perfectly, because everybody had to play a sport, and everybody had to be smart because of the nature of the boarding school. So that's really where I fit in. But in this moment, in this spring and summer of 2020, I was able to find a community for the first time where I was allowed to be a nerd, but I was also allowed to be smart and allowed to be like a little bit sporty and weird, and allowed to just be who I was, and didn't feel like I had to play a part to fit in. I was already fitting in. And all of that started because I put a TV in my room. I don't have a TV in my room anymore, because I play mostly on my computer. And I have, because I stay up a lot later, I have strayed away from putting stuff in my room, because I don't want to wake my parents up if I'm playing later than I normally do. But I remember playing World of Light, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart, all these games. There's so many friends that I made during that time, and it all was because of that TV in the room. And it's a crazy thing to think about, that even though 2020 was rough, it was in the middle of my like peak teen years, really developing like a social circle, and that the pandemic shattered that. But it created a great transition for me, because the pandemic hit a week after I found out that I was going to boarding school. So I finished all the stuff that I had at my original high school and was going to boarding school. So I felt like it was a perfect transition, and it let me essentially cut off the people that I wanted to cut off and start anew. And it's such a beautiful time for me, and all of it couldn't have happened because if April Fools, 5 years ago, April Fools, I didn't put that TV in my room, I wouldn't be good at Mario Kart, because I met somebody who was a speedrunner and we would practice together. I wouldn't have played Breath of the Wild and found my love for that type of video games. I wouldn't have listened to Zelda and chill. I wouldn't have done so many things if that TV wasn't in my room, and that shaped who I was. Like, it's not to be understated how much the pandemic has changed people, for better and for worse. And for me, the pandemic really helped me find who I was and what I wanted to do and what I enjoyed the most. And so, even though it's a tough time, I look back on those times fondly. And again, it all couldn't have happened if on April Fools I didn't say to my sister, let's put TVs in our room.